After I posted my last video, I realized that I may have been doing something a little out of order. And, the first time you do something, half of the battle is figuring out what you need to do and what the right order is. I had put all this time in CAD into this playfield layout, and it hit me that I was planning to do some custom mechs, and I hadn't left any room or really even thought about how those custom mechs would integrate into the playfield. In other words, I needed to clarify my mechs really before doing more work trying to finesse the layout of the game. Now, I suspect the reason for that is that maybe I was subconsciously avoiding it because custom mech design, it's intimidating, isn't it? Like if you're a pinball player, you have experience with the ball flowing around the layout such that it's easy to sort of conceive of how you want the ball to move. But then when it comes to custom mech design, it seems far less intuitive and much more difficult. So I headed straight into that storm to see what I could uncover. And one of the things that I think I've found along the way is that custom mechs appear difficult, but when you break them down, they are simply a number of existing ball interactions that have been combined in a unique way. And typically that unique way has something to do with the gameplay or the theme of the game. Here's a great example, the Mecha-Godzilla mech in Stern's Godzilla Pinball. If you break it down, this mech has a jump ramp, a spinner, stand-up targets, magnet, and it rotates. And any one of those elements by themselves are not incredibly innovative. But what happens is that when all of those elements are combined with the jump ramp and the spinner and the magnet become one thing, and then the whole unit rotates and it shows you the targets, the sum of the parts become greater than, like the whole altogether becomes greater than just the sum of the individual parts. That's the magic, I think, of a custom mech. So how exactly does one go about designing a custom mech for their game? Here's the strategy that I chose. First of all, you want to have a good catalog in your head of existing ball interactions. And so I think the best way to do this is to take inspiration from history or to put in a lot of time experimenting on your own setup. Either of those are great because you have a lot of reference points. Once you have that, pick some, and then this is the key, create some variations. So variations are basically just taking things that you might already know and adding a little twist to them. In the case of Godzilla, the little twist is that the whole unit rotates, or the twist is that the jump ramp takes you into a magnet, right? Those little twists add up to create a unique experience. And then, of course, once you have some of these variations, you can look at all the variations and you can either choose or refine one down specifically for your game. So where I began was a couple of weeks ago, the YouTube channel Pinball Shenanigans. I'll link to this video in the description below. The YouTube channel Pinball Shenanigans purchased the original Whitewood prototype for the last Williams Pinball 2000 game ever made, which was Star Wars Episode 1. This is a game by John Papaduic, and in the back, there's this really unique area where there's this like up-down gate that sort of blocks access to this area and unblocks access to this area. And then there's a double wide 180 flip back ramp. The ball flies around here and then it will land in one of two wireforms depending on which side of the ramp you hit. And I thought this was really interesting and I hadn't really seen this played out. So the very first thing that I did is I went and I made a 3D printable version of this, and I printed it out and I screwed it down to my Whitewood and I started flipping it to see what I could learn. And after playing it for a few minutes, by the way, I'll have video of this in a second. After playing it for a few minutes, I realized this is incredible. I really like this. There's something about nailing this shot and the ball flies around and goes in a specific path that sort of defies what you expect in little ways. This is fun, and so I wanted to keep it. So this is where the let's create some variations part come in. So my first variation is I said, well, it was cool if a ball was double wide, it was cool if the ramp was double wide, but what if we made it triple wide? Except now there's a new problem, which is, well, where does the triple path go? And so I thought, well, what if the triple path, instead of flipping back at you into a wire form, what if it went straight up? Now there's some things that we could do with this. One is up here at the top, we could have a target or a captive ball or something of that sort that you can hit, which is neat. But then the ball just sort of falls out and falls back at you. And if this is in the middle of the play field, that's a center drain monster for sure. So then I thought, well, what if this vertical section, what if there was a one-way gate, and so the ball goes up and it hits something and it passes through a one-way gate over here, and then when it comes down, it hits the one-way gate and it falls out the back, maybe into a ball lock or into another wire form or something. And that seemed like it could be neat, and as you can probably guess, this is 3D printable. I printed it and I played it. And what I was really surprised with is how high the ball shoots out. Like the ball will come into this and it'll shoot out the top. And if I don't have a cover on here, like I can get a good 4 or 5 inches of airtime out of this thing, which I was incredibly surprised about. That taught me to really not assume that the ball will be underpowered and to think beyond what I had traditionally been thinking. So my next variation was to take the concept of a 180 flip-back ramp and to rotate the top part of the ramp by 180 degrees. And this creates a kind of, I've been calling this a periscope ramp, where the ball can come up, and instead of flipping back at you, it can come up and basically just go up vertical and then kick out the backside. This is almost a vertical ramp without using vertical up kicker. And this totally works. And let me just show everybody some video now of what this looks like. So by this point, I was pumped because these ball interactions were really interesting, and I felt like they hadn't been explored a whole lot. But in order for me to feel like I was taking this to the next level, I wanted to make a mech of it. So what do you do? What do you do with a 180 ramp to turn it into a mech? And keeping with the theme of just keeping it simple, my first idea was, what if we went back to that double ramp, but what if it was split in the middle here? And what if I combined my idea of a double wide ramp with a periscope, and I had this mech where you can see the top half is cut, and we'll have these pivot points, and there's a coil here. And what if when the coil fires, it pulls the top half back, and so that allows the ball to jump up and literally fly through the air and around over into something else. So in the starting state, the ball will kick back at you. It'll go 180 degrees and then back at the player. And then when you do something and we open this up, now the ball will go up and then around to the back, maybe through the backboard or into an upper play field or something of that sort. Another variation on this would be to get rid of this part at the top, and up here there could be some magnets, like maybe there's 3 magnets, and normally this acts like a ramp, and then when it opens up, maybe there's a ball lock and you have to lock all 3 balls. You have to get them all stuck on the magnet or something of that sort. This was my first real, like, let's make a mech of this, and while I think that this is interesting, one of the challenges that I kept having is asking myself questions like, how will I know when the balls are there? Or what will I do with this area back here? Will this work out having this thing actually split and fold back? This mech is, in some ways, kind of complicated. Maybe there's a way that people could make this work, but I kept feeling like I had a lot of complicated questions. And so I asked myself, well, is there a way to still get the effect of changing the 180 ramp, but to keep things much simpler? And that's when it hit me, wait a minute. The simplest thing that I could do is to leave the 180 flipback ramp as a single piece and instead just move the entire thing up and down. Here is my current idea. You can see we've got this 180 ramp, and the concept is that this is in the fully up position here where you'll play it and it'll be just like episode 1 where you've got 2 sides to it and it'll land in a ball path. And it can also drop completely down below the surface of the playfield. And I'm undecided, but I might put some targets or something over here. But, and this is the interesting part, but what if it parks halfway in between? Now at this point, you can see if I hide what's below the playfield, instead of being a 180 flipback ramp, it becomes effectively a triple wide scoop. And so here's the question. What can you do with a triple wide scoop? That is a question to whose answer I will explore a lot more in upcoming videos. For now, I will leave you with a few photos and video of the progress of the mech. It's nearing about, I don't know, the 30-40% mark. I'm definitely learning a lot and am excited to see where this goes. Just want to say thanks to everyone who has been supporting me so far, and I'll see you next time.